This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody. Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Stop obsessing over the draft picks.
22.
Stop. Okay, moving on from that. And you can call in and weigh in on that.
One caveat on all that.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Yes.
There's no caveat.
Yes.
No.
You have to sign him long term.
I know. There's no caveats though,
Except for the one you agree
Except that
with.
one caveat that I agree with. I've changed my stance a little bit on Jerry Jeudy. I think I honestly, when I said that last week, it was coming from a place, Alex, of a little bit of like, I need some semblance of a football season, some semblance of entertainment on a football field from the Patriots this year. And that like felt like maybe, okay, at least 1 week when he debuts with the Patriots, we have the Jerry Jeudy game and we can talk about what he looked like and things like that. But I also thought was coming from a place where I legitimately thought they had a chance to beat the Raiders. So I was like, all right, so 2-4, you get Jerry Jeudy in the building, like you never know at that point. At this point, I'm with everybody that was saying don't waste assets on this team right now.
I figured out a better way to phrase that argument too, because my caveat was, you were like, third round pick, and you read off all the third round picks that they've missed on, and you said, is this what you want them spending on? It's not so much that, it's when we get to, and I've given this take like 10 times in the last week, and I still haven't looked up the date of the draft, but April whatever, that Thursday night.
I think it's the 26th.
Perfect. April 26th, that Thursday night. The Patriots are sitting there on the board, 6th. Let's say things keep trending the way they're trending. They're sitting there like 5th, 6th, 7th. They've identified Drake May as
25th.
25th, April 25th. Perfect. Yeah. I'll forget next time I give this take. Sitting there Thursday night, April 25th. Patriots are picking like 5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah.
They need to trade up to 3 to get Drake May. They've identified Drake May as the guy. That's the guy they want to trade up and get.
Who? Who's identified him?
The Patriots. Oh, I get what you're saying. Well, that's another conversation. But
plenty.
But here's the point, right? Don't you want that third round pick in your pocket to offer in a trade? And we can extend this to the trade deadline and get more assets because, Evan, you just said you wanted like that element to watch Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Well, you take another 2 months of watching this team as it is if it means you get 10, 15 years of watching Drake May.
Yes. I will just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed that Drake May is going to be good either, right? Like
no, you're not.
So
and you know me, I'm
the
the guy that's petrified of the quarterback carousel.
Yeah.
Don't want to go back in there unless you absolutely have to. It's trending towards you absolutely have to.
So we can talk plenty about the future outlook of the team. I know that's the story with the Patriots, right? Like the story is, unfortunately, it's not about what's going on Sunday here against Buffalo. It's not what's going on the field. It's about Belichick, his future, the future of the team, the future of the quarterback position. And I get all that. And, I wanted to kind of start with a take on the state of the Patriots now, because that is what
can we start with another take first?
Yeah.
Your haircut.
I did get a new haircut. Thank you. Thanks for noticing. I can't even pull it off. I told him to say something. I just want to shout out my friends at GA Barbershop down the road and here in Foxborough. I think it's Foxborough, technically still, right, where the Papagenos and the D'Angelos is.
I believe so, yeah.
Go see George and Habib. They're going to hook you up with the haircut. They cut a lot of the players' hairs as well. I'm not going to name the players that they work with, but you can see they have all the Patriots jerseys and some autographs hanging in the barbershop. Great place, great cut, right? Look at the cut. Looks nice.
211 North Street in Foxborough.
Yes,
there you go.
So GA
right by the
Barbershop.
Right by the D'Angelos.
Yes, right by the D'Angelos. GA Barbershop, stone's throw from the stadium. Great cut. Anyways, thank you for that. So here's where we're at. I think that with the Patriots, the first things first is I genuinely, a lot of people are asking, has Belichick lost the team? Are the players tuning him out? We obviously have talked a lot about the Belichick, the GM stuff, right? Yeah. And all the personnel missteps and the lack of offensive talent and things like that. The general sense or feeling that I get around the team right now, and this is not a report, so Dov Kleiman, don't hit me with this. I'm just telling you.
Dove's always lurking,
I'm
man.
just telling you what I'm feeling as a person that's around the team quite a bit. I think it's actually more of disbelief that they're this bad. Like, I think that there was and you were at camp, so you can speak to this. I think in the summertime, there was genuine buy-in of Bill O'Brien's here now. Bill O'Brien's going to fix the offense. He's going to fix Mac Jones. He's going to fix, the entire offense, and then we have a defense that's got a lot of talent, and we're going to be really good on that side of the ball. Like, that side of the ball is legit good in the NFL, not just like, let's get the offense back to level. The defense is legit good. We're going to be a little bit better in the kicking game because, we have Joe Judge over there now. We've changed the specialists up, and we're going to be a competitive football team. I'm not saying that anybody in this building thought they were winning a Super Bowl. Nobody thought that. Nobody. But they thought that they were going to be in the hunt for the playoffs. 8, 9 wins, maybe 10 if they get a couple bounces like they did in 21. And this 3-week stretch, especially the 2 weeks, obviously, against Dallas and New Orleans, I think hit this team like a tidal wave. Like, holy crap, we just lost 2 games by 70 points, and I don't really think that anybody in this building thought that they were going to truly be bad. Like 1-5, not middling, but bad. And so I look at that and I say, well, why? Why have we gotten here? And I want to talk about some of the coaching aspects of it and how we got here, because I think everybody talks so much about the injuries and they talk so much about the roster construction, but I think it's more than that.
Well, but just to that point, you say, you get this feeling. I had that thought Tuesday.
Yeah.
When Bill O'Brien talked, and you, or it might have been Taylor Kyle, somebody asked him, how do the offensive line injuries limit what you can do? And in his answer, he basically said, look, we've had a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball. It's not an excuse. Or he said, those aren't excuses, they're facts.
Yeah.
That was his exact wording. That stood out to me.
Yeah.
Because they are, I think, they know they're limited in their personnel, not in terms of the roster building, but I think they had certain plans for this season that, for one reason or another, some a fault of their own, some not, that they can't follow through with right now.
Yeah, and I think the short way to put this is that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Right.
And the Patriots had a plan going into the season that I think they genuinely thought was going to be representable football. Genuinely. And I thought the same thing. So I want to keep on hammering home. Nobody is saying that I thought they were going to be in the Super Bowl. Nobody's saying that.
You booked plane tickets to Vegas. You love Vegas. You couldn't wait to go back. The Patriots were going to be in the Super Bowl. You were booked at the Luxor. You were ready to go see the Beam. All of it.
No. But I definitely thought we were going to have a real football season with a competitive football. Look, last year with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running the offense, they were 8-9. They weren't out of it until they lost in Buffalo. They had a win-and-in game against the Bills in Week 18 last year, and they lost the game. So I don't think anybody really thought that. But here's the 2 things that I want to get into, some of the coaching and some of the on-field stuff. But I also want to read this quote because I got to talk to Dante Scarnecchia in the spring. Obviously, Scar is going into the Patriots Hall of Fame on Saturday, jacket fitting tomorrow, Hall of Fame on Saturday, along with Mike Vrabel. And this is no disrespect to Mike Vrabel. He's very deserving and as well, right, to be going and getting the red jacket. But you know me.
Scar's your guy.
Scar's my guy. I absolutely love that Mr. Kraft did this, and that Scarnecchia is going in the Hall of Fame, and that the team recognizes what he brought to this organization that predates Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, goes all the way back to Raymond Berry.
Right, predates Robert Kraft.
Yeah, predates Robert Kraft, right in the 1980s with Raymond Berry. And I had asked Scar, and this piece is going to run tomorrow, so you can read the whole article, or you could buy a Game Day magazine and read it there too.
Well, so I wanted to set this up for you, because you said, no disrespect for Vrabel, you want to talk about Scar. I almost said our freshman year, our first year covering the team, right? We go to the Super Bowl, and we talked to all the assistant coaches at the Super Bowl, and they all were at tables.
Yeah.
And you sat down with Scar for 10 minutes and talked to him. And I remember you coming up to me and being like, man, if I could just talk to Scar for an hour about offensive line play, that'd be amazing. And then you got to basically
I literally did it. Yeah.
And that's what this article is.
It was definitely a, what is it? Look, mama, I made it moment when I got to write
circle,
this. Yeah. This is exactly what I wanted to do when I took this job with the Patriots.com. But anyways, here's the quote from Scar about when it started to change in the Patriots organization from going from where they were in the 90s to the Patriots dynasty, right? And he says first, to have the type of owner, head coach, and a player like Tom Brady, that was probably the revelation. So he admits that Brady and like that was the biggest thing, right? Was obviously those things happening. But here was the other quote he gave me. Complacency was never an issue. There was always a strong drive that unilaterally transcended the entire organization. Everything administratively with the football realm, equipment, training staff, video staff, everybody. It was just across the board and seeing the focus the same way. So essentially what he's saying is that everybody in the building had a standard of excellence, a standard of championship medal. Like that was the expectation, and it was unspoken that they just had this level that they were at, and they knew it. And it was an unspoken rule that everybody had to meet that level. And what I see with this team right now, and I know Devontae Parker's kind of like become the poster child of this because of his post-game comments. Yeah. But just in general, what I see with the team right now is that I don't think that there's that same competitive drive that there was during the Brady years. And I fully agree that maybe that tone was set by Tom Brady, right? And he's not here anymore, and that's a big part of it. But the word complacency stands out to me because sometimes I feel like when we watch this team right now, it's the same movie over and over and over again. And I get that in Vegas, they didn't get blown out by 30 points like they did to Dallas and New Orleans. But when you really start to break down the issues of why they lost this game in Vegas, it's not all that different.
It's the same thing.
That why they lost. They just played a worse team.
Right. It's untimely penalties. It's bad offensive line play.
Yeah.
It's missed opportunities in the passing game from the quarterback. And then it's all of that stuff compounding late in the game.
Right. So that to me, I think speaks volumes about where the team is at, that I think that there has been a losing mindset and complacency that has set over this team post Brady and has really taken its ugly, turn this season, that I personally think that all of this points to the fact that we are very, very critical on this program, especially, I don't want to speak for other people, of Belichick, the GM. You and I have fairly criticized the roster construction over and over and over again. Lack of,
just the tackles. We spent hours and hours on just the tackles.
At tackle. Neglect is the word for it. The lack of urgency to add real star power to the offensive skill positions, like all of it. DeAndre Hopkins, like, I was blue in the face, yelling when that whole thing was going on over the spring. Like, how do you not bring this guy in? How do you not do this? And they didn't do it, and here we are. So all these things. But what I am coming away with is something that I've felt for a couple weeks now, but this game sort of reinforced it for me. The Patriots are poorly coached. The Patriots are not a well-coached team. They're not a well-coached team. And for that to happen with a Bill Belichick coach team, for me to sit here and have proof of all the reasons why they are not well coached in all three phases. Like defensively, I think that they're the best, right? Certainly. They're the best coached on defense. But offense and special teams are not well coached. And when you look at those, that in itself, so if I think I said this a couple weeks ago, but now I feel like it's even stronger. We know that he's had missteps as a general manager. If he's not a good coach anymore, then what the heck are we doing? Like, what's he bringing to the table? Like, what is he bringing to the table? So here's a few things, and then I want your reactions to them.
Yeah.
Here are their deficits faced in like the first 20 minutes of a game. Like, I'm not even talking about them being down. What was it? 38-3 or 28-3 at halftime to Dallas, right? Like, yeah, obviously they lost by 35 points to Dallas. So that deficit was huge. But I'm just talking about like the first quarter of the game here. So week 1, I'm going in order. 16-0 to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate. 16-0. Miami, 17-3. Against Dallas, after Mac Jones fumble 6, it's 18-3. There was 12 minutes to go in the second quarter, and it was already 18-3. They're in a 15-point hole. against New Orleans. Similar time frame of the game, 21-0. They were down 3 touchdowns to New Orleans midway through the second quarter. And then last week against a bad Raiders team, 10-0 with 12:27 to play in the second quarter. You were 2.5 minutes into the second quarter and you were already down 2 scores. That to me tells me that the team is not ready to play. They're not ready to play out of the gate. All week long, you talk about game plan, right? Like, what's the game plan going into this week? If your game plan is getting you down 17-0 before you even could take a second to breathe in the game, then it's not a very good game plan. So they're starting games piss poor, terribly. They're starting games terribly, and they're getting basically blown out in the first 15, 20 minutes of a football game, which tells me that they're not prepared to play in the game. And to me, that's like the crux of coaching is offensively, what's your opening script, right? What are the first 10 to 15 plays that you have? You have practiced, and this is what drives me nuts the most. You have practiced the first play that you are going to run in a football game all week long, right? 1st and 10 from the 25-yard line. This is the play that we're going to run. False start. You false started on the first play of the game. False start, second play. Illegal man downfield. You have 2 penalties in the first 2 plays of the game. As Bill O'Brien put it, and I thought he was really candid about it, ridiculous. Absolutely flat out ridiculous that you can't even run a play to start a football game without getting a penalty. That is wild. So you talk about the starts of these games. It's been brutal. Go ahead.
Just on a couple things on that. First off, just first quarter scoring alone. Patriots they're tied for 29th, but there's a bunch of teams. Second worst in the league. They're averaging 1 point per game in the first quarter.
Yeah.
They're allowing 6.5 points per game in the first quarter, which ranks 27th. So I can't find the first quarter scoring margin. If they're actually, the Giants are worse because the Giants are below them in both. But if they're not the worst, they're towards the bottom.
Yeah, so they're getting blown out in the first quarter.
Yeah, they're getting blown out in the first quarter. I mean, and that's a 6-point difference per game. So you add that up over the course of 7 games. That's bad. The other thing I would add to that is it's funny. Last year, the one thing that the offense had going for it was the scripted drives.
Yeah.
Remember, they'd have and sometimes they'd turn it over at the end, but they pretty much more games than not, I would say the good majority of games, they moved the ball on the first drive of the game. They didn't score on all of them, but the Miami game, right, and that ends in the pick, and there were a few other games like that. And then coming out of half was the same thing. They'd come out of half sometimes in tempo, and they'd move the ball, and they'd score there, and that was it. Late in the season, there was some weird percentage, 40-something% of their points were scored on the first drive of a half.
Yeah. And
it was bizarre. So that was, of all the things they struggled with last year, and there were many, their scripted drives were good. Their scripted drives have been some of their worst this year. They've played 6 games, and 3 or 4 of them, they haven't gotten a first down until their 3rd or 4th drive.
So they have 2 scoring drives on their opening drives. They're both field goals.
Yeah.
They don't have a touchdown yet on their opening drive. It also took them till Thanksgiving last year to have an opening drive touchdown. So you went 13,
but they had a number of
weeks.
field goals, or they were at least moving the ball and turning the ball over. This is you're going 3 and out, punting it away. The other team's in favorable field position. They score.
So first drive of the game for the Raiders. The Raiders go 16 plays for 62 yards and a field goal. The leveraging penalty was thrown in there, right? And I'll get to special teams in a second because that's been its own issue. So the Raiders go 16 plays. They possess the ball for 8 minutes in the first quarter. I think they picked up 4 third downs on the opening drive, and the Patriots defense couldn't get them off the field until the red zone, right? They couldn't get them off the field. Then the Patriots offense gets put on the field. They go 3 plays. They go 1 yard. They gained 1 net yard. 1.
Yeah, there was a point in this game where it was the Raiders led 10-0 both on the scoreboard and in terms of first downs.
Yeah, so second drive of the game for the Patriots offense goes -8 yards. You have -7 yards through 2 drives of offense in this game. So Bill Belichick was asked about starts and things like that. I think Curran asked him on Monday, and he was like, look, if I knew the answer of how we could start better, that's it. You're 100% right. That's a big problem for us. That to me points to coaching. That's your game plan. How are you going to stop this team? How are you going to script an offense to beat this defense? And they are not ready to play in the game. They're not ready to play. The second thing, I mentioned some of the penalties, right? So they're 10th in accepted penalties, which doesn't sound terrible, but for a Belichick coach team, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Although last week was their most penalized. Yeah. Keep going. I have a take on this.
So they're the 10th most penalized team. Most importantly, they're the 5th most penalized team in pre-snap penalties. 5th most in pre-snap penalties. So like delay a game. So when did that happen? Oh, right, the last drive of the game. False starts, procedural stuff. They had an illegal shift, right, against Hunter Henry, I think, in this game as well. So that's undisciplined. They're not ready to play in the game. They commit a bunch of penalties and like mental error penalties, like delay of games and false starts and things like that. They're sloppy. They're a sloppy football team in that sense too. So you have that. So let's add that to the list. Bad starts, sloppy play, and then two more.
Just on the penalties.
Yeah.
They had 11. They were 10 were accepted. They were called for 11 penalties in that game.
Yeah.
5 in the first quarter, 5 in the fourth quarter.
There you go.
When it mattered.
Yeah. Next one. We all know this one because people have been talking about this a lot. Turnover differential. Tied for dead last in the league in turnover differential. They are -8 in turnover differential. Turnover differential is the one stat that you like these kind of stats because they're not fugazi.
Because they're tangible.
Up. Yeah, they're real.
Yeah.
Turnover differential is the one stat that is the most correlated to wins.
Right.
Teams that turn the ball over a lot lose. Bottom line, like that, and that's not rocket science.
Teams that force turnovers win.
Right. So they're tied for dead last in the league right now in turnover differential. They only have last year. They had a bunch of those, and because I know that most of that's offense, right? Most of that's Mac Jones turning the ball over. And
but it's not though. That's the thing, and that's what's weird. And I think that's where you're going with this.
Yes. So the defense has forced 3 takeaways all year long, which is also I think like 20 something in the league or something like that. It's down there. The defense has forced 3 turnovers all year long.
It's last.
It's still last.
It's dead last in takeaway alone. Like they're not. They were tied with a couple teams with 2 last week.
I knew it was in the bottom. Jeez.
Falcons and Browns each have 4.
So they're dead last in turnovers takeaways, turnovers forced by the defense. On top of that, there are 3 turnovers. Only one of them has happened in their opponent's territory, right? Like in like the plus side of the field for the Patriots offense. Last year, they had 11 such turnovers that happened in the opponent territory, right? So they were teeing it up for the offense. As bad as the offense was last year, they had 7 drives, 7 out of 11 scoring drives off of turnovers that started in the plus 50s. So like they're basically just getting the ball in scoring territory. And even if they went 3 and out, they were still, Paul Perillo likes to call them pick threes, right? Like you're still getting a field goal out of it. So as great of an individual play, and it was a great individual play, and we're going to get to it on a positive note at some point. As great as an individual play as Jabril Peppers' hit stick forced interception was, it happened in the red zone, right? It happened in the Raiders were in the red zone when it happened. So the offense still has to take the ball and then drive it 75 yards to make anything out of that.
So that's what I was going to – I don't think they have any points off turnovers this year, right?
I don't think so.
So – and that goes back to your point maybe about where the team is at, the disbelief in being where they are right now.
Yeah.
You had to figure, and you lose Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon, this is going to happen. We saw it last year. Like when they won games, it was because they were forcing turnovers.
Right.
And this defense was built to turn the ball over. Talk about having a plan and executing the plan. I think that was a big part of the plan, was to swarm teams and force turnovers.
Absolutely.
And they're not doing that right now, and they were counting on having a bunch of short fields. And if not pick sixes, those pick threes like you're talking about, they just haven't been there this year.
Right. And then the last one, this one really is the piece of resistance. Do you know where the Patriots are right now in special teams DVOA?
It's 30. Is it still 32nd?
Dead last.
Yeah, they're 32nd going to the
Dead last in special teams DVOA.
You're telling me the Brandon Schooler field goal block didn't run that thing all the way up?
Do you want to know how bad it is?
I don't know how DVOA works, so I'm not going to know what this means. But go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I'll simplify it for you.
Yeah,
they are almost doubly as bad as the 31st
so give me the number.
Team.
Give me the.
So the Patriots special teams DVOA right now is -7.4%.
Okay.
That's horrible.
Okay.
Minus 7.4%. The the Rams, who are in 31st, are at 4.9%.
Who's in first, and what's the number there?
I don't know who's in first, but who's in first? What's in second?
Well, no, I'm curious if they're worse than the best team is good, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So they are minus 7.4, and the next closest team to them is minus 4.9. So you, in this offseason, spent money on guys like Chris Board. You drafted a kicker in the 4th round. You drafted a punter in the 6th round.
The Jets are first at 6.3.
So
they
almost.
You said
7.9.
So they are worse than the best team is good. Yeah.
So they have the worst special team. You move Joe Judge back to special team, right? Like all of it.
Yeah.
They have, how many teams have 3 special teams coaches? Because the Patriots have 3 special teams coaches.
Right.
And they have a bunch of special teams players. And I'm not like a guy that gets all hot and bothered about the cap space they're taking up. I don't really care.
It's a decimal of a percent.
But that's the point is that this team is focused on being good in the kicking game. Like that's an emphasis for them. And tough teams cover kicks, right, Alex?
But look, there's nothing wrong. Like, here's where I think the conversation gets lost. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be good on special teams.
But they're not.
That's the point. Like, you can flip games if you're good on special teams.
Yeah.
But if you're going to focus it put resources into being good on special teams, then you should be good on special teams. And because I don't want the take like, they don't need to spend all this money on special teamers and they shouldn't be spending as much time on it. Like, that's not the takeaway here. The takeaway is they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Remember, how did this season start? Do you remember how this season started?
Yeah.
They were penalized in OTA practice
for too much special teams.
For the special teams meetings.
For too many special teams.
For the 15-minute special teams meetings Joe Judge had.
To have the 15-minute special teams meeting to be 32nd dead last in the league in special teams.
And look, again, like I said with the turnovers, I think part of the plan was we're going to flip the field. There's going to be short fields. We're going to pin teams inside the 5. But Bryce Behringer is shanking kicks. They can't get Chad Ryland in position. They can't get the snaps off right. There's been a lot of penalties, a lot of special teams penalties.
And their coverage and return units are bad too. Like, I think that some people look at it and say, "Oh, well, Chad Ryland's missed half his kicks, and Bryce Behringer's had some, and they're rookies." And this, no, they're dead last in the league in net punt average. They're dead last in the league in return average on kickoffs. Like,
they're running kicks out of the end zone that they don't need to run out.
Yeah.
There's been some weird punts they've fielded. There's been 3 or 4 times this year, and maybe this is losing Marcus Jones, but there was one Jabril Peppers fielded inside the 10 he shouldn't have fielded. There was the other one he sort of muffed trying to pick up on a bounce. And look, Jabril Peppers has been one of their best players. I don't mean to pick on him overall, but you can't have that. If you're trying to win games on the margin, special teams is the margin.
Yeah.
Can't have that.
So that brings me to my last point, and it was, 2 last points. One, Bill O'Brien on Tuesday spoke, and I thought what he said was really interesting about that they need to be better at the details.
Yep.
And when I heard that, I was like, a Patriots team is not good at the details. Like, that's Bill, right? Like, that's all Bill's all about is the details. And they can't coach the details into these players anymore. And I feel like that's very, very worrisome. And that kind of gets me to my last point about the film and like what I saw on film. I got to be honest, I thought that there were some good things about the offense in the second half that I was encouraged by in terms of the running game and some of the things that Bill O'Brien did with the scheme. And I thought that his plan for Mac, his passing script, is really good in this game. It's not going to work against everybody to run the quick game as much as they did and to throw it underneath as much as they did. But it was the right thing to do in this game with the quarterback being where he was at, right? It got Mac into at least somewhat of a rhythm there in the second half, and they moved the ball a little bit and things like that. But overall, I watched this film against the Raiders, and I kind of came away from it being like, you know what? They kind of got their butts kicked again. Like, the score was 21-17, but they kind of got their butts kicked again in all 3 phases again. And, it starts to me offensively. Obviously, the offensive line was still not great. They were a little bit better in this game than they have been, but I think that speaks a little bit more to, other than Max Crosby, they really don't have anybody over there in Vegas that scares you as a pass rusher. But the quarterback, I thought was bad in this game again. And defensively, that defensive performance was extremely concerning to me. Their pass defense has completely cratered, and I understand that it's mostly, I wouldn't say mostly, but a lot of it is because of Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez no longer being available. But that's going to be the team for the next 11 games.
You got to figure it out.
And they allow Jimmy Garoppolo and Brian Hoyer to average over 8 yards per pass attempt in this game. They really didn't stop the Raiders other than in the red zone. Like, the Raiders went up and down the field.
I mean, they did the bend, don't break thing.
Yeah, and I give them some credit for holding up in the red zone, but they really had a really difficult time in general in this game, stopping the Raiders' passing game. And, the one big stat that stands out is, Aaron Schatz, I think, tweeted this. He used to be Football Outsiders. Now he's at the news site. The Patriots have been really good against number one receivers. Like, Devontae Adams really didn't kill them in that game. The problem is that they can't cover everybody else, right? So they're really good against number one receivers, but they've been really poor against 2s, 3s, tight ends, like everything else. And that's exactly what happened in this game. You saw that through and through. Like, Trey Tucker catches the bomb. Michael Mayer looks like he's prime Gronkowski on the opening drive, and nobody can cover him. This defense, I really don't think they have no pass rush. Their secondary's banged up, and they're missing key pieces back there. And they're not a very good pass defense at all right now. So you look at it in all three phases of this game, they really got outplayed. I thought pretty much in all three phases. And that's, I think, the most concerning thing that you can come away from with this game. And, that's where I'm at. That's a 30-minute layout of exactly where the Patriots are at, as we tend to do. But it's worrisome to really think about that they even are getting outplayed by teams like the Raiders. And it's not one thing, like, it's across the board in a lot of senses.
Well, at the same time, though, I felt like, and this goes back to the roster construction thing, my prediction for the game going in was it's going to be close. And then the difference in the rosters is the star power. The difference in the rosters is Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Max Crosby. And Crosby specifically just because of the Patriots' offensive line. I said on the Sports Hub Sunday morning, this game's going to be close. And then Max Crosby's going to make a play late, and that's going to be that.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be the roughing the passer, and I thought I might have gotten it backwards, and I got a little too excited. But then he gets the safety, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. And for the Patriots, they had a guy like Matthew Judon who could maybe give them that play, or a guy like Christian Gonzalez who could give them that play. I don't know if they have that guy on offense, but they had a couple options on defense. Kyle Duggar should have been the third, but he hasn't played at that level this year. And that to me was, you talk about the film stuff and getting outplayed. Maybe they did a little bit, but at the end of the day, the stars made the plays that decided the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the modern NFL is. The stars make the plays that decide the game. The Raiders had the stars to do it. The Patriots did not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just add that to the list of the lack of star power and the lack of top of the roster talent, which goes back to the personnel thing that we've talked about. So that's an ugly truth
because I mean, you say the Raiders outplayed the Patriots. Let's not act like the Raiders played this great game.
They didn't.
They didn't. But Max Crosby, when he needed to make a play, pinned his ears back and did his thing. Yeah, and that was what made the difference.
Yeah, it's just troubling to look at a team, and like I think I said, I don't know, 15 minutes ago or wherever in this rant, that it's troubling to
what
look
is
at
even time on this show?
It's troubling to look at a team make the same mistakes and like be the same, like just follow the same script every single week. And if I'm the Patriots, and I know there's been a lot of talk this week, Alex, about like taking the ball, like instead of deferring and like doing different.
Which watch they won't win another coin toss the rest of the year.
But in general, like I think that gets a little bit overplayed. Like I'm not really necessarily sure that that's the difference at taking the ball. What's taking the ball if they have 2 penalties in their first 3 plays and go 3 and out? Right. Like it doesn't make a difference.
They still are, injuries and all, a defensive football team.
Yeah.
And you should be able to get a stop and then score and then go for that double score. That's still, and people hear that, a double score, they can even get 1 score.
Yeah.
The second you start chasing like that, you get panicky, issues compound themselves. They still need to play to their strength. Their strength still is defense.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't think taking the ball does much.
So going into the season, Belichick, the GM, failed because we knew the roster had holes, and we knew that the talent on the roster wasn't top end.
I don't think we thought it was this bad,
but we didn't think it was this bad.
We knew the offensive line we were right about.
We didn't know it was this bad, and I think the reason why we didn't know it would be this bad is because we thought that they would be coached better.
That's part of it.
You know, we thought that they were going to coach them up.
And I think that's what they thought. How many calls did we get? People being like, is this really their plan for the offensive line? And it's, well, they believe in Adrian Clem.
Yeah.
And things like that. All right, speaking of calls.
All right, let's take some of these calls, and then we'll get to 3 up, 3 down. Jeff is in Maine. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So pretty much anytime you guys are on a show, I watch or listen to it.
Thank you.
Love it.
And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, so you know that this isn't personal, and two, that you know I'm telling the truth. I'm here to start a debate between the two of you.
Uh-oh.
It shouldn't be that hard.
I've been keeping receipts. Last week on PU, Evan, you said that Lincoln Riley was one of the brightest offensive minds in football, and you really want him for a head coach.
Still do.
On Pat's beat, Alex, you were vehemently opposed to that and said, when was the last time a college coach worked out as an NFL head coach? And I just want to hear you two go at each other for this. I'll take it off the air. Enjoy, guys.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks for the call and for listening to us. We really appreciate that. Lincoln Riley, give him to me.
Wasn't good against that Notre Dame team.
Good
isn't
in
very
that
good.
One game.
That Notre Dame.
So now we
if you can't beat that Notre Dame team, which lost to Louisville,
they got a good defense.
Kind of.
Yeah, they got a good.
Kind
defense.
of.
They played
kind
well.
Of.
They had a good game.
He has the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
He can't go in and scheme up for that defense.
I mean, to be fair, Bill O'Brien had the number 1 pick in the draft at Alabama last year and also didn't make it very far. So if we're just gonna.
He had no wide receivers last year. 2, all right. And how's Bill O'Brien doing in the NFL right now? How's he doing in the NFL?
So
if you can't beat Notre Dame,
yeah.
How are you? And by the way, Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma, USC.
Yep.
It was cold. It was rainy.
Yep.
He, from all the reports out of Southern California, that might have gotten in his head a little bit, and I think he struggled to prepare his team for that.
Well, water gun action at
right,
practice.
You're squirting players with water guns. It's not going to fly in the NFL. You want him to come to New England? First of all, will he do that and leave Southern LA? But also,
no. He won't come here. I know that.
That was his team has had bad games the last few weeks. He got out coached by Jed Fish. I know they won, but he got out coached by Jed Fish against Arizona.
I think Jed Fish is kind of a good coach.
He might be, but still, he got out coached by, and I think Marcus Freeman's a good coach too, but these aren't guys that NFL teams are breaking down the door for. Kyle Whittingham has whooped him twice in the last year. He's got him this week, and you should like Kyle Whittingham. I don't know how much you know about him, but you would if you did. It has not been a good couple of weeks for Lincoln Riley, and that team is kind of in trouble right now.
To come to the NFL. It's not working for him at the college level.
It's too hard for him, so why doesn't he go coach against better coaches? Is your answer?
Well, it's not necessarily better coaches.
It's better coaches.
It's different.
It's better. It's better football coaches.
Most of the time.
Outside of the guys that get called up from the college ranks like Matt Rule and Urban Meyer.
So the reason why I like Lincoln Riley, and thank you for laying out all the reasons why he stinks.
He's a good college coach. I don't want to come across like he's not. He's a very good college football coach. But there are some guys, Nick Saban, and you know how I feel about Nick Saban. Yeah. Nick Saban is a very good college football coach. He also chose Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees in 2006.
Right.
There's a reason Nick Saban has just been at Alabama and stayed there.
So I think that guys here's the difference for me. Everybody, I think it's more of an off-season topic to go into all the great things about Lincoln Riley. But at the crux for Lincoln Riley, just know this: Lincoln Riley runs a new age offense, right? That's a modern spread, air raid elements, RPO elements. Like that's a modern NFL or just offense in general. And a lot of NFL coaches have taken from Lincoln Riley, and it's trickled up into the pro game. You know, mainly guys that coached with him, but also guys like Andy Reid, for example, in Kansas City has a lot of Lincoln in his playbook now. So they've done a lot of those different types. It's a modern offense. That's the bottom line of it.
But there are NFL coaches that coach it, that have experience at the NFL level that coach it.
Okay, that's fair.
That would be the guys I would go get.
I look at Lincoln Riley as a great candidate is because I actually think in a way that his personality might actually fit the pro game more than the college game.
Oh, I don't think so.
And so in college, like a guy like Nick Saban, for example, you mentioned stayed in college for a reason. I think that guys like Nick Saban need to be able to motivate with aggression, right? Like that's like the type of motivation that they have to stand by, and like I'm like this father figure to you and you have to answer to me, and like it's discipline, right?
Yeah.
It's a college program. Lincoln Riley to me is cut from the same cloth of like a Sean McVay, a Kyle Shanahan, a Mike McDaniel, like these more new agey coaches that are a little bit more chill, a little bit more laid back. He lives out in LA in this like ridiculous mansion apparently, right? Like all these like things like that. And I think that lends itself more to the pro game because you don't usually, and I know this team, I just went on this whole thing about how this team doesn't have, that sort of this team does have complacency and doesn't have that kind of drive. But usually when you're dealing with professional athletes, you don't need to father them, right? Like you don't need to like kick them in the butt, and you don't have to worry because they're getting paid to do a job. Like you don't have to worry as much about that sort of stuff. And I think that's where the difference to me between a guy like Lincoln Riley and some of the coaches that have come from college that have failed in the NFL. I think a lot of those guys come to the NFL and are trying like to be these like disciplinaries, and it doesn't work because you can't do that with pro athletes.
So I would say Matt Rule doesn't fit that description. Urban Meyer probably does.
Matt Rule definitely does. He came from Temple. That's like Temple tough. Like that's the whole mantra.
No, he wasn't that kind of guy. Everything I've heard about his programs, he was not that kind of guy.
It seemed like that kind of guy at Carolina.
I would also say I don't want to say anything that like isn't like hasn't been reported, but I'd say there were some, and maybe he learned from it. The way Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, I think rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. I don't necessarily think because he left, but I think it was the way he ran the program and the things he preached to leave the way he did. I think there's some more, and again, maybe it changed when he left. I think the Oklahoma program was a lot more disciplinarian than maybe it came across. And maybe LA Lincoln's different.
Right.
But I think at Oklahoma there was a, you follow my word because I know and I will get you there kind of thing. And then for him to leave so suddenly, it was you told us to trust you blindly, and you bailed on us.
Yeah, that's fair. It ultimately, like in terms of like the motivator and all that kind of stuff, I don't really like care as much about that stuff as some people do. I just want the best.
I would also say
offensive mind. That's all I want.
But you even said like there's guys that run the Lincoln Riley offense. This is the other element of it where I just struggle with college coaches, and there's evidence of this in the past. And this is where Matt Rule does not apply, but a guy like Nick Saban applies. A guy like Urban Meyer certainly applies to this. Lincoln Riley is at his core a recruiter.
Yeah.
He's a great offensive mind, but before he was that, he was a recruiter. And he has pretty much across the board, you could count on one hand the games Lincoln Riley has coached where he did not have the most talented roster. That's not going to be the case in the NFL.
That's fair.
And can he compensate for that? So you said that there's guys in the NFL that run Lincoln Riley's offense. You say you want Lincoln Riley. I would say to you, give me some of these guys in the NFL that are doing it. Those are the guys I would call.
Yeah, I just think ultimately and
Cliff Kingsbury's another one. Perfect example of that. Always had great rosters. He had Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And he got to the NFL and he didn't have a great roster. And suddenly some of that new agey stuff, when your players aren't 20 times faster than the opponent across the board, it's a little harder to run that.
Okay, fair enough. Look, I don't know as much about college football as you. We all know that. So like, I'm not going to argue with you about like what he was like and what he wasn't like. I want the best offensive mind, and I think Lincoln Riley is at the very top of the list nowadays in terms of offensive innovators and coaches.
And that's fair. But again, I think you need to take that one step further and say, all right, if there's other people running this offense who have experience with an NFL team, that's the middle ground. Yeah. That's where you go, and I think you're practical about it. Yeah. Instead of just taking a wild swing that don't get me wrong, like the ceilings would be in theory very high with hiring Lincoln Riley. But I think it's as if not more likely you end up in a borderline Urban Meyer situation. Is there a guy that's a little bit safer that will still give you some of that offensive motivation that just has that NFL experience?
So I think it's an interesting question, and this is also probably more off-season in terms of like if this actually happens, and we are talking about lists of head coaching candidates and things like that. But I think we're both in lockstep that as much as we both like Gerard Mayo, that an offensive-minded coach and that whole direction is probably the best thing for
I
the
have
team.
one exception on that.
Okay.
If you can get Josh McDaniels back as the OC.
Okay.
But
then the Raiders have to fire him. So now you're going down a whole thing.
I know, but it's more like your thing, and I used to kind of scoff at this.
If it's Gerard, though, I would think that Bill O'Brien's his offensive
Okay,
coordinator.
so here's the thing. I used to scoff at this when you would say it, and you're right. The danger in having a defense-minded head coach is the offensive coordinator. You're going to churn through him, and the quarterback doesn't get any consistency.
Right.
There is validity to that, which I didn't agree to in the past, but I do now.
Wow, look at that. He just
There you
admitted
go.
that I was right about something, Faith.
But where's Josh McDaniels going?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, where was he going the first time?
But now the second time has happened is kind of my point.
That's fair.
Are you really going – and let me put – if he leaves, it's not going to be for years.
No.
You're going to have some stability. And maybe this applies to Bill O'Brien too. I don't know. But, that would be
Bill O'Brien could have a college job.
That's true.
Not before long.
Okay. That Josh McDaniels would be my exception to the offensive coach rule. If you can get Josh McDaniels, the offensive court, there is consistency on the offensive side of the ball with him that you're not going to get with a younger upshot. And maybe there's other guys that fit that, like maybe Eric Bieniemy. It seems like teams don't want to hire him as head coach, which is wrong.
I don't know why he would leave the Commanders to.
I don't either. But
again,
if you can get one of those older OCs that you notice isn't going anywhere,
I would like Bieniemy if they can clear his background. Then I would like Bieniemy.
He's on my short. If we're going to talk about names, he would be one of the first names that comes up.
He's done a really good job with Sam Howell.
He's done a great job with Sam Howell. He deserves a lot of credit. And when he left, everybody was like, all right, we're going to find out it was all Mahomes. And is he another one of these, Adam Gase, Mike McCarthy kind of coaches? He might. Mahomes is part of it, but Bieniemy's doing a very good job on his own.
Yeah, he's a good candidate, and I think that all those types of guys. I like Ben Johnson. I do. I think the thing with Ben Johnson that concerns me a little bit is just that system is very Shanahan-y, and you're really talking about completely overhauling the offensive personnel.
What have we talked about with this offense for the last few weeks?
I agree, but I'm just talking that those systems take time to build up.
Yeah.
And it takes continuity and it takes a lot of practice time. If you're Robert Kraft and you're firing the greatest head coach of all time because of his performance, the next year in 2024 don't want to stink again. You want that. You don't need to win a Super Bowl in the first year.
I get what you're saying.
But you need to have a little bit of instant gratification to it.
I would say, look at what Mike McDaniel did in Miami.
Yeah.
That team he inherited was not. Brian Flores wasn't running a Shanahan offense.
No. But they had some pieces already. They had Tua, they had Jalen Waddle.
Did they have Jalen Waddle?
Yeah. They drafted Jalen Waddle the year before they traded for.
Okay, so they had some, but it's not like a 5-year project.
No, it's like a 2 or 3 year project.
It doesn't scare me too much.
Okay.
I get what you're saying with you do need more instant gratification, but it doesn't scare me too much.
All right, Sean is in Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
Hey, guys. I hope you're doing well. Evan, I was also in Vegas. I had a great time despite the loss. Now, you said before you're not crazy about going back to Vegas.
Spend too many times.
He's
Sean.
lying. He loves Vegas. Lying. He loves the Luxor.
It sounds like you had a good time, though, with the, playing that Top Golf.
Yeah, Top Golf was fun.
Evan went to Vegas and enjoyed golfing.
There you go.
This is a win for me.
Yeah.
Well, there's always something to enjoy. Now, I want to hear, speaking on the positive stuff, we're talking about how bad the Patriots are, which is understandable. They're 1-5, and we're not used to this. And Vic Carucci was talking yesterday about how I was looking at the All-22 and seeing just so many holes. What is there that's positive that we can look forward to on Sunday? I mean, City So played at guard. I don't know. You were watching the 22. It seemed like he was okay. What can we look forward to that in this game that we can move forward with? Are there any players? Are there any things that you think might work? Is there something we can do that could be different and actually lead to a score offensively? I'm just looking for something to grasp onto.
No, Sean, that's a good call because and thanks for the call, Sean. I'm glad you had fun in Vegas. We got to talk about some positives, right? And it can't be all negative, and that's not like a homer thing. It's just there's got to be something.
That's always been our show. Give you both sides.
I think that there's two things, and then this is a great segue into 3 Up.
Well, we talked about one positive. We talked about your haircut.
Thanks.
Where'd you get it again?
GA Barbershop, baby. Anyways, so shameless. The one thing that I liked about what they did on offense this week, and defensively, they're still okay. They're 14th in DVOA on defense. Now, so you got to take the first month out kind of because Judon and Gonzalez were there. So, but in general, they're going to be okay on defense. Bill Belichick, I think although his like floor hasn't translated to the entire team as a whole, defensively, I believe they have a Belichick floor where he's not going to coach a defense that's an absolute disaster. He's too good on that side of the ball. Gerard Mayo, Steve Belichick, they're good enough at their jobs on that side of the ball to keep the defense at least middling, even with the talent issues that they have. So I think that their defense is going to be competitive most weeks as long as the offense doesn't leave them out to dry like they did in Dallas and against New Orleans. The other positive, I thought they did a much better job in this game. And then we can also do our 3-ups.
Yeah.
The other positive, I thought they did a much better job schematically in this game using motion. Like they used a ton of more jet motion, end around motion at the snap, right? Like stuff, window dressing, things like that. And I thought that was a big reason why their run game was a little bit better in this game. I know the Raiders' run defense was also part of that equation, but I really liked some of the short yard. You've been screaming about them like throwing the ball on 3rd and 1 and stuff like that. They ran the ball this past week.
And they got first downs. Would you look at that?
A big part of that, though, was because it was off of motion, right? Like they had a Kendrick Bourne jet sweep or end around for a first down on 3rd down, and then they sequenced that by faking the jet sweep and then pitching it out to Ramondre in the other direction, and they got another first down at that. So some of the motion stuff I really liked. In the run game stuff, I thought Bill O'Brien and Adrian Clem dressed it up a lot better, so it wasn't just we're going to run gap right at you, right? Like you can't just do that all the time. You got to have some semblance of, window dressing, whatever you want to call it, and eye candy, and be able to just manipulate some gaps a little bit and manipulate the defensive, their eye discipline and their rules. So I really like that, and that gets us into 3-up, 3-down.
Just one more thing on the caller's point there. He said anything like this week to look forward to. I'd like to see him expand that Malik Cunningham package a little bit this week.
Oh, God, it was bad.
I know, but the Bills aren't good against the run, and they might not have Ed Oliver.
The game was moving really fast for Malik, and I don't blame him for that. Like, it was his first NFL game in the regular season. He hadn't played other than maybe some practice reps. Like, he's been sitting there waiting to play.
Really didn't even play in the preseason.
Yeah, and so they throw him into the fire. I thought both of them, he made the wrong reads on both of them. But I understand that it was his first time
But
out.
it's also like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
They need to find ways on offense. The Bills have not been good against the run. I mean, I want to see him expand the run game overall, but I'm looking forward. I'm hoping we get another look at Malik Cunningham this week.
That's fair. All right, 3-up, 3-down. Number 1 up for me is Christian Barmore. I thought Christian Barmore is fantastic in this game. 5 run stuffs, 2 batted passes, hurry in the pass game. That's 8, as Greg Bedard would say, impactful plays.
And one of those run stuffs was the one on 3rd down to get the ball back. I mean, they end up with the safety, but what would have been the final drive.
He almost had a 6th, very first play of the game, or run play at least. I don't know if it was the very first play. A very first run play of the game for the Raiders. He went, anticipated the block, the zone block, went right around the guard and was in the backfield, and it ended up being like a gang tackle for no gain, but he was the reason why the play got blown up in the first place. That's because he was in the backfield. This, I think, to me, and going back to his rookie year, he might have had better games or more impactful games in the pass rush, but I thought that this might have been Christian Barmore's best game in the NFL. Like, this was a really, really good game by Christian Barmore.
He was really good. Yeah, I was going to have him on my list since you have him. I'll switch him out. But yeah, he was. That was as complete a game as I've seen him play.
All right, who do you got?
Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, he's on my list.
I mean, he was awesome in this game, and everything we talked about over the summer with him being like a tone setter and things like that. They got to be getting him on the field. He's their best safety right now.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond the Devontae Adams hit, as awesome as that was and as textbook as that was.
I mean, that was the first time that the Patriots have made a highlight Sports Center top 10 type of play in 6 weeks?
Probably since the Pharaoh Brown touchdown.
In like a month. Yeah.
I mean, it's textbook. That's a teach tape hit, clean play, all of it.
Yeah.
But he's constantly around the football. You can tell he's able to rally some of the guys on that defense just as a leader who's I think some guys even talked about him stepping up with Matthew Judon out kind of in that role. Yeah. He's been everything you wanted him to be. You talk about, I say this all the time with players, right? If he maxes out what he will give you. I think you're seeing Jabril Peppers more or less maxed out, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, first-round talent, Jabril Peppers, right? Like, this is, if we want to hold on to one thing that, one Belichick mystique item, It's that Bill Belichick figured out how to use Jabril Peppers, right?
Yeah.
And get that first round athleticism.
Well, almost. I want to see him on offense. I want to see him in the Wildcat like he was in Michigan.
So really good game from Jabril Peppers.
Yep.
He was on my list too. I assume that we're gonna might have the same exact list or very similar.
Well,
list.
I'll change mine as we go. But.
Number 2 for me was Kendrick Bourne.
Okay.
And Kendrick Bourne in this game, had 9 catches, right? Or 8 catches on 9 targets or something like that. I should have pulled that up. The 36-yard catch was ridiculous. Like, just broke like 3 tackles. I don't even know how he got out of the tackle, like the original tackle, gets into the open field. And I remember as he's running in the open field, I saw who was it? I should know these things. Chasing him from behind, whoever it was. And in my head, all I could think of was don't fumble, right? Like I thought that he was
saw the Pop Douglas play.
I thought he was going to fumble because the guy was going to catch him from behind. He didn't fumble, held on to the ball. But in general, this was a really, really fun tape to watch from Kendrick Bourne. He was running routes with purpose, right? Like dynamic route running. There was a throw on the left-hand sideline that Mack threw to Gesicki that was incomplete. Gesicki like kind of tried to one-hand catch it. He was held a little bit. Tyquan Thornton ended up getting the flag for holding, and they got the first down anyway. Go watch that play again if you can find it, and look at Kendrick Bourne run the little whip route underneath. Just absolutely breaks the cornerback's ankles and is wide open underneath. And of course, Mack misses him, which we'll get to in a second. But in general, I thought that Kendrick Bourne was running dynamic routes, like really, really dynamic receiver routes, creating separation. You could tell in the stem that he was coming off the line of scrimmage and guys were feeling that speed and that explosiveness. This was one of his better games with the Patriots. I know he's had some games that were maybe more statistically good than this one. But last thing on Bourne, some of those plays that he caught against zone, just the quarterback and the receiver being on the same page. It was refreshing to see Mack gets blitzed, Kendrick Bourne sits down, and like they knew where each other was going to be. I don't think you can really say that for everybody on this team with the receivers. So the fact that he was on the same page as consistently as he was with the quarterback was cool to see as well.
This is everything we were yelling about last year.
Yeah.
I was yelling about last year with Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, great game.
Like he can play, man.
Yeah.
He can play, and they're finally giving him a chance. And I mean, he has to now. He's their best option on offense. They got to start running, especially if Hunter Henry's going to miss time and he hasn't been in practice or he's back today.
Yeah.
But he missed practice earlier this week. They got to run this thing through Kendrick Bourne because he's the most explosive player they have.
Yeah.
He's the most explosive player they have on offense. He's creating with the ball in his hands. Outside of Pop Douglas, who they really just won't play, Kendrick Bourne's the only guy you can say that about. There's, like, Hunter Henry's been good, but he's not going to create. He's going to give you more or less what's given to him. Kendrick Bourne is an explosive player, and you're starting to see that.
He was open the entire game. Like, he had, even more than what he was targeted. He was open the whole game. All right, what else you got?
Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, he was good.
So I have a theory on Zeke.
Yeah.
He obviously joined the Patriots a month into training camp.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say he's a month behind, but he is kind of a month behind. I know he said he tried to stay in football shape when he was on his own, but there's only so much you can do. We're now a month, and he looked a little slow at the beginning of the year.
You think he's
We're now a month into the season. Yeah, he was running with purpose. He's never going to be like a burner, but he wasn't running away from guys, but he was running through guys. He was getting guys, shaking guys off of him, things like that. When he hit the corner, there was a burst. Before the first couple weeks, you could tell like he's trying to find the hole. And guys run slower when they're trying to read the field because you're waiting for things to open up. And then when they hit the hole, you want to see that pop. I thought I saw more pop from him in this game coming off of the read than I have to this point. So I'd like to see, especially if Ramondre's banged up, I'd like to see him get more involved.
Yeah. Both
in the run game, maybe in the pass game. But he looked healthy. He looked good. He looked right. He looked like Zeke. Again, the Bills aren't a team that runs the ball well, that defends the run well. So this week, if you can, maybe, and they especially are bad in between the guards.
Yeah.
See if you can get him going, because I think he's kind of back in that feed Zeke mode where he can start dealing defenses body blows, and maybe you build off of that.
Yeah, I think he's one of their best offensive players, which might speak to where they are on offense a little bit. But he's one of their best offensive players, and I love Ramondre Stevenson. I love him as a player. I think he's been great with the media since he's been here. He's a good dude. But that being said, Zeke is their best running back right now, and I think that they need to feed him. I would venture to say that it might even be time to just say that he's kind of the number one guy.
It might be.
Yeah, I think he's the best player. All right. Anything else?
No, because I had Peppers,
Yep.
Zeke, and Bourne.
Yeah, Peppers was my last one too. So let's clear these calls and then we'll get to 3 down and we'll talk a little bit about.
Who was the other? No, then you had another one. Peppers, Zeke, Bourne.
No, mine were Barmore.
Oh, and Barmore was the other one. Okay,
Bourne,
yeah.
Peppers, and you added Zeke to it,
Yeah.
which I think is a good one. All right, Mark is in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Evan, Alex, how you guys doing
Hey.
today?
Good.
I was on with Nick Fitzy yesterday, and we were talking about how we really need to sit Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Parker and run Pop Douglas, Keyshawn Butte, Kendrick Bourne, and Tyquan Thornton. Run the rookies. It's time to sit these guys that aren't doing a damn thing.
Yeah, that's a really fair, and thanks for the call, Mark. We're up against it a little bit here because of locker room. They moved it early, so we want to move this on a little bit. Thanks for the call. That gets me to 3 down. Look at that. Nice transition, right?
Boom.
3 down. My number 1 down in this game. I had a tough time with this, with picking who was number 1 on this, because I agree with the call 100%. It's time to sit Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster and roll with the young guys 100%. Yeah. But my number 1 down is Mac Jones. It's still Mac. Devontae Parker is also on my list, so don't worry. Like he's gonna get his in a second. But Mac Jones was more consistently bad, right? Like Devontae Parker had like 1 or 2 bad plays.
Oh, he's bad.
Yeah,
plays. Right.
But Mac Jones in this game, we laid out in the first 30 minutes, and I wanted to do it this way because I don't want people to think. To me, it's 2 separate things. We can sit here and talk about Bill Belichick's mistakes, and the reason why we're here from a 30,000-foot view is Bill's fault. It's Bill's fault that we're at this point with the quarterback. Bill did this. This is not me crapping on Mac Jones. But when I talk about Mac Jones in terms of his play, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing that's going wrong for him. I'm not sitting here telling you it's his fault. It's Bill Belichick's fault that they have no offensive tackles and their best receiver is Devontae Parker. That's Bill Belichick's fault, right? So, and their best receiver is Kendrick Bourne, but you know what my point is, right? Their number 1 receiver is supposed to be Devontae Parker,
the guy that just extended.
Yeah. So that's Bill's fault. With that being said, Mac Jones is leaving too many plays out on the field. He just is. And it's not just the interceptions. Like the Hunter Henry interception was a brutal throw. We all know that. But really, when you go and you look at this film, the only good throw he really made in this game, and I should say that, the only high-level throw he made in this game was the deep ball to Parker, right? The rest of it is all just kind of, layup yards, like yards that most quarterbacks in the league should be able to get. He is locking onto receivers, which I think is a big thing. Hunter Henry is a big one that he just stares at Hunter Henry. And if Hunter Henry doesn't get open, he might throw it anyways some of the time, or he just takes a sack or eats it or whatever. It's first read. Sometimes he'll get to the check down, but most of the time it's like first read and then, oh crap. Now, panic.
Which is crazy because he was not always like that.
Right. So I could probably count on one hand in the last 3 weeks how many times I've seen Mac Jones make like a second read rhythm throw, right? Like in my drop, read the first read's not there, get off the first read, come to the second read, hit the second read that's open. Like I haven't seen it. I haven't seen him move off any first read in like a month. And that, other than to get to the check down, but that's like a separate thing. Right. And in this game, I know Romo highlighted the play and tried to like make excuses for him, but he locks into Hunter Henry on this third down, and Hunter Henry's running like a little whip return route, and he's covered. Not only is he covered, but he's like 5 yards short of the third down marker, and he's covered. So even if he throws like a contested type of throw and Hunter Henry still makes a play on the ball, he's not getting the first down. Kendrick Bourne is wide open past the sticks on the dig route, and all Mac Jones has to do is come off Hunter Henry, reset his eyes, and get to Kendrick Bourne in the second read in the progression and make an easy throw, make a wide open throw right in front of him, and he doesn't get to it. The throw to Ty Montgomery that should have been an interception. Mike Gesicki is just wide open on the in cut on the second read again. Just come off the read and hit the throw in front of you. He's not seeing the game well right now. He's not seeing it well. The interception to Hunter Henry, I thought he was a sped up for him.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Like, it's Haas Juke. He's off the Haas side, like the Juke side, the 3 receiver side, before he's even to the top of the drop. Like, he's already looking all over the place at that point. And then he leaves a pocket that the step up in the pocket was the right thing to do, but he didn't need to completely leave the pocket.
He doesn't need to keep running.
No, all he has to do is step up and buy himself some time for Max Crosby coming around around the edge and just make a little throw to Zeke Elliott for a first down on the juke route. He's not seeing the field well. He's not feeling pressure well. It's just he's broken. He's absolutely positively broken, and I preface the whole thing by saying that it's Bill Belichick's fault that we've gotten to this point. But the bottom line is the quarterback is broken mentally, most importantly. And, we say this all the time. If his details are not sharp, if his footwork isn't sharp, if his eyes aren't in the right places, if he's not making the right decisions with the football, he doesn't have enough physical talent to overcome it. Like, he has to play well at the fundamentals. Like, the fundamentals need to be sharp for him to be a good quarterback, and they're a mess right now in the fundamentals. So that's my Mac Jones take. And that what's your first down?
Adrian Clem.
Yeah.
I mean, I could put Vidarian Lowe on here, but it's not like Vidarian Lowe's fault that he's out there.
You can add Mafi to the list.
Yeah,
too.
Mafi, all of them. Like it's not. I go back to that safety. If Vidarian Lowe barely gets a hand on Max Crosby, and you're 6 weeks in, there's nothing they can do to help out there. And
Connor McDermott's here to save us.
Right. It kind of feels that way. And look, I'm actually kind of glad about that because he was serviceable at least last year. Yeah. I don't know that serviceable saves this offensive line, but it's better.
Yeah.
The offensive line didn't look ready this week.
No.
They didn't look ready, and that's on the offensive line coach.
I'm a little disappointed. Like, I know in that play, Mike Gesicki's technically like chipping or into block.
Yeah, because he didn't really try either.
Speed bump. Like, just
right.
Not even there. And I feel like that was a little bit disappointing. Adrian Clem, I felt like left Vidarian Lowe, or I guess Bill O'Brien takes blame for this too. I think they left Vidarian Lowe a little bit one-on-one with Max Crosby a little bit too much.
They keep doing that, and they did it last week, and they did it. It's been an issue.
Yeah, and why like Pharaoh Brown doesn't just come into the game there and to block? Like, I get what they're doing. They get basically what happened was I think Henry was hurt, right, and so Gesicki's in the game in 11. And that's just the only tight end at that spot that they trust. But I would have preferred to have seen in that spot just run 12 with Gesicki detached as a receiver and then have Pharaoh Brown be the second tight end to help block Crosby. That probably would have made a little bit more sense. I had Vidarian Lowe and Antonio Mafi on my list, but I think you're right to put it mostly on the coaching and the personnel side of things. The one thing that's really disappointed me, Vidarian Lowe is just not an NFL tackle. Like, he's just not, or I shouldn't say, he's not an NFL starting tackle. And I don't know, for Adrian Clem, I'm not sure how you coach that up. Like, how do you salvage a player that's just in way over his head?
You try to figure out a way to coach around it.
Correct. And they haven't necessarily done a good enough job.
And maybe that's Bill O'Brien as well. But also the decision to dress Mike Onwenu when he was not going to play in that game. Can you get another lineman on the roster or
not mess with the quarterbacks?
Right. It's kind of crazy we've gotten to this point, but, like, Evan, where's James Ferentz?
Yeah. I don't know.
He's kind of been like a steadying backup president. He was the only interior lineman to play last year other than Strange and Onwenu. He was the backup.
Yeah, James Ferentz is basically a coach at this point.
Right.
Like, he's literally comes to the road games and is on the sideline and is coaching.
Which, I mean, coaching's probably in his future whenever he's done playing. His dad coaches, his brother coaches, but they keep rolling out the same group that clearly doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I almost want to say, like, where's Andrew Stuber?
Yeah.
I don't know that he'd be better.
Cody Rusey or whoever.
Well, I just said tackle, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that he'd be better. Could he be worse? And we'll see with I'm expecting McDermott to play this week.
Yeah.
He was here this summer.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be a learning curve. He has the playbook. I whistled that. Sorry. Has the playbook. Should be good to go. If he's healthy, which I would assume if he signed, he's healthy, he should be playing this week. He is their best option at right tackle.
Yeah, so I also had Antonio Mafi on my list, but I think it's also more Adrian Clem.
Yeah.
So it's really disappointing that they can't teach the kid how to pick up a stunt. Like, it's just wild to me that he looks serviceable in pretty much every other way, I would say. I mean, like, the one-on-one pass pro reps are hit or miss, but like he's a rookie and you kind of live with some of those and you don't leave him one-on-one a whole lot and you can kind of coach around that and things like that. Run blocking, like does he get a huge push? No, but it's functional. Like you can do it, especially when you get Trent Brown on a double team with him and Trent's helping him move it. And I have something to say about Trent real quick too. But Antonio Mafi not being able to pick up a stunt for a month straight, and teams now, in this game, the Raiders and every team is just going to keep targeting him on the same thing. They're just going to keep running stunts over and over and over again at him. And if he can't pick it up, he can't pick it up. And at some point, that points to coaching to me. Like, Adrian Clem, do your job, get him in the film room, do whatever you got to do. Text, he'll be here this weekend. Like, ask Dante Scarnecchia, like, what did you do when you had guys that had issues picking up stunts? Like, how do I get through to this kid on how to pick these up? Have him work with Ferentz. Have him work with Dave Andrews. Like, just, you got to figure this out. You got to figure it out. It's sad. It's sad to watch him go out there and they run these stunts at him and he looks like a lost puppy. Like, he just has no idea that it's coming and nowhere to block. And he is a puppy, right? He's a rookie. Like, this is not on him. Like, coach him, figure it out. Those are my two other ones. My fourth one, I had four.
Okay.
My last one here, Devontae Parker.
I didn't get to mention him yet, but he's on my list too.
So I don't know what was worse, the third down route in the first half, the drop, or the post game. I don't know which was worse.
I mean, the post game is just, man, he can't do that.
Yeah.
And the full circle of it, where same locker room last year.
Yeah.
So Parker's the guy they paid this offseason. The guy they didn't pay this offseason, Jacoby Myers, makes a worse play that he wasn't entirely responsible for.
Yeah.
And takes all of the accountability for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty telling contrast. And again, I don't know how you put that guy back out on the field with any regular basis after something like that.
Yeah. So I think that there is some truth, and I say this lightly.
Yeah.
There is some truth to the fact that Devontae Parker has gotten open sometimes. He was open on the drop.
He was open. He got behind the defense.
Right.
Chris Gasper told him to his face, "What'd you see? I saw you get behind the defense." And then what happened?
Yeah. So there's some truth to that he has gotten open. I thought on the first third down of the game, he was open on the backside, and Mac once again got locked onto Hunter Henry and didn't move off it. There's other instances in Dallas. Like, I think he was open like 3 or 4 times in that game, and he couldn't connect with Mac Jones. So I think that there are instances where Devontae Parker has been getting open. I think there's two things that I see with Devontae, and I see this a little bit with Tyquan Thornton at times too. One, if he doesn't think he's getting the ball, he doesn't run the route. Like, it's just a lazy route. Like, he just doesn't run the route hard. He has, I think, like, competitive issues. Like, I don't look at him and watch him and be like, that guy is going all out all the time. Like, it just looks like he's going through the motions sometime. And I thought on that third down route in the first half, that was just lazy. Like, what, you're what are you doing? Like, what is that route? Mac Jones, I think, thinks that he's just going to kind of sit it down and like hitch at the sticks, and then he in cuts, and it's just like, where are you going? What are you doing? What's your body language? Like, all of it. And I thought post game was exactly reflective of that. The drop, it was obviously in the spot, like a horrible drop. I can see where he was coming from in terms of like the contact on the catch and things like that. So I'm not going to sit here and say.
But then say that.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, because of that one play, he's a bum, right? Like, that's not my point. But the totality.
No, it's the collective.
The totality of it all is why I agree with the caller who just called it and said that he should be benched in this game. I agree with that. I think that he should be benched. I think they're not going to put Kayshon Boutte on the field.
Which is frustrating.
But Pop Douglas, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, those guys should be getting the majority of the reps on Sunday.
Do you still want to see more from Jalen Reagor?
No. Like, right. I'm kind of like, it wasn't that it was terrible from Jalen Reagor. It wasn't enough of a sample size to really be like 100% judging on it. But I saw enough from Tyquan, and I got frustrated on Tuesday about the first third down. I thought I sent it to you. I thought Tyquan's route was lazy, bad. But in general, I think that his speed when he runs hard, but he doesn't run hard all the time. And I think it was kind of what I was saying about Parker.
Do you think that's a lazy thing, or do you think that's a worried about getting hurt thing?
I think that if he's one of those guys right now, and he's a young player, and he's trying to find his way in the league, and he's trying to make an imprint on the team, I think that if he isn't in the progression and he's just there to clear out space, I don't see him running the 4-2-8 on a clear out route. I see him running the 4-2-8 when they try to take a shot to him down the field, right?
Yeah.
Like then I see the 4-2-8, but when he's just clearing out the sideline for a dig or an in cut or an out cut or something like that, and it's just there to clear it out, I don't see him running. I don't see that 4-2-8.
I mean, they've benched guys for less. So
yeah. All right. Do we have any more downs here?
Let's go back to the calls.
Yeah, that
I probably another one, but whatever.
Yeah. I hope I'm saying this right. Is it Ganesh in North Carolina?
Yeah, Ganesh from North Carolina.
Awesome. I just want to make sure I got it right. What's up, Ganesh?
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I'm a UNC alum, so it's exciting times on Saturday as a Carolina football fan. But more importantly, I'm looking at Drake May close, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for Patriots, especially the offense that we run. I think he's one of the elite pocket passers still out there. I think you mentioned that he's like a comp to Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Maybe Josh Allen's probably like a little too much of a stretch. I don't think he's that big of a body yet, but I mean, if things go the way they are, I think the Patriots are going to be playing a couple of good to great defenses going down the stretch, and even if you're not tanking, I think you'll still end up with a top 3-5 pick. So in that sense, like, what do you if you guys had the top, let's say 3 pick or whatever, who do you guys want to take? And
Okay, yeah, thanks for the call, Ganesh. I appreciate it. And I'm a Drake May guy. I'm a believer. I'm a May believer. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of play on words there, but I'll find it eventually. I like Drake May. I think, Alex, you said, well-rounded skill set. I love the poise, like, and kind of just like the general makeup. He looks like one of those guys that sort of gets it from that point of view. And I think the one thing that I have noticed with Mac, and I think we all noticed this a little bit, is that he tends to ride the wave a little and get emotional at times, like when he's not playing well and it kind of snowballs on him. Drake May seems like the type of guy that could throw 3 interceptions in the first half and then come back in the second half and score 30 points, right? Like I feel like he's got that sort of makeup about him, and I think that's what you kind of need in a quarterback.
So I would say, what are you basing that on?
Just vibes. Vibes, yeah.
So and this is my big critique with Drake May, and it's not necessarily anything about his game. He's never really had a game like that, so we don't know. And part of the reason is we haven't seen him like tear up an elite defense yet.
Yeah.
So I hate to go this route, but like, remember the thing with Trubisky was he was drafted purely on spec. He had like 1 year starting UNC at a weak schedule, and it was just like, this guy's toolsy, we'll draft him, whatever.
Yeah.
Drake May's much more naturally talented than Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
But you look at the tough teams he's faced. He struggled against Clemson. He struggled against South Carolina twice. And those are really the only like true top-tier defenses he's gone against. Now, he has Duke in a couple weeks. That Duke defense is really good. That's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully, UNC ends up in a bowl game against one of these good SEC teams. Maybe they get Alabama, something like that. Maybe they sneak in the college football playoff. They get Georgia. Like,
right.
That will tell us a lot. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't draft him. He's still my quarterback too. But he hasn't faced the kind of competition somebody like Caleb Williams. Like, I know you hate the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 has been loaded this year. Somebody coming out of the Pac-12 right now, somebody coming out of the SEC, he hasn't faced that kind of defense yet.
Okay, let's see what it looks like against some
let's
of the
see
better
what it looks. And look,
fair.
that can be taught too. Like, his rookie year is going to be an adjustment, and he's going to go through growing pains as a rookie wherever he goes.
Yeah,
because he's just, the ACC's been bad for a few years now. I think can he get over it?
Yeah.
I it's worth the risk to me. He looks talented enough that I'll draft him and see if he can figure it out.
I just, like the caller said, I think that also he is at his core, I would say, a pocket passer, right? Like that. I think that would be how you describe him. But he has a little bit. First of all, he's bigger.
The
right?
Justin Herbert comp is a good one. It's a very good one.
I don't know if he quite has Justin Herbert's arm talent. Justin Herbert has a ridiculous arm. But I think that May, when you see it, you see definitely a guy that can work in the pocket, that can survive in the pocket, that can make throws from the pocket with accuracy and touch and timing and all those types of things. But he's got a lot more physical gifts than somebody like Mac Jones, right? Like he's got more mobility, he's got more arm talent, but he still has some of those like natural quarterback traits. I think one thing that I worry about with the Patriots in the draft with quarterbacks is them overcorrecting and saying, all right, we drafted the intangible, the mental processor, the decision maker, the accuracy. Better way to put it, we drafted the floor quarterback last time.
Right.
We drafted the safe guy last time. So this time we're going to draft the toolsy,
So that's
our athletic, cyborg Josh Allen type prospect. I feel like the best thing about Drake May is that you're hitting it right down the middle of those two things, right? He's got enough of those like natural quarterback elements, and he has enough of the mobility and the arm talent, but he's not all one thing or the other.
He's definitely more ceiling than floor.
Yeah.
But his ceiling's tremendous.
Yeah.
And his floor, the only questions are basically, and I don't want to say mental makeup like he's been bad. Like he hasn't really been tested.
Yeah.
And maybe when he's tested, he looks good. And if that's the case, he might sneak into the 1-1 conversation after the way Caleb Williams played last week, and if he has another stinker against Utah.
Yeah.
I just, that's where I'm at with it. He's a high ceiling prospect, but his ceiling is high. It's legitimately high. And to your point, like he's kind of the anti-Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones was tested a lot, but he had a ton of talent around him, and he was cool, calm, and collected at that point. You were like, all right, we're going to take him. Drake May hasn't really been tested, but he's done a lot with the situations he's been put into. And all right, let's see if there's anything behind that. And if it turns out the lights are too big for him, oh well, but everything else is something you want to buy on.
I'm Penix is growing on me. I know
Good.
you like Penix. I'm not totally there yet, but I got to watch.
Penix is a floor quarterback, but he's a different kind of floor quarterback than Mac Jones. I finally came up with a comp for him the other day. I was struggling a lot. My best comp for him was like less mobile Russell Wilson.
Okay.
I came with a comp for him last night I really like.
Yeah.
Lefty Phillip Rivers.
Oh. I like Phillip Rivers.
I mean, he's a gunslinger.
Who doesn't? I mean, he's like, I think, a Hall of Famer.
I think now, so you talk about like the cyborg Josh Allen, right? And that implies a certain level of mobility.
Yeah.
Michael Penix is that without the mobility.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just an old school gunslinger.
The problem that I see with Michael Penix, I don't know. Well, it's two things.
Yeah.
One, he's like, 23, 24.
He's going to be 24 when camp starts.
And he had ACLs, right?
So he tore his right ACL in 2018 and 2020. So it's been a while.
Yeah. That concerns me a little bit.
And that's a fair look. There's no perfect prospect. It's
an old prospect with bad knees.
Bad knee. Yeah.
And the other thing that I think, and this is just anecdotal, so I have to watch him more closely, but I just see him like bombs away in these games, and like that's not going to work in the NFL.
So that might be the games you've watched. He can pick teams apart when he needs to. Okay. I think the age is the concern for me. And I don't know how high his ceiling is, and people are going to run and scream and say, oh, no, like it's Mac Jones again. His floor, where he's at right now, is much higher than Mac Jones' floor was. Like if they were in the same draft, and everybody knows how high I was on Mac,
I agree with
I would have – Penix is – you could do a lot worse with a floor guy. Michael Penix is a guy I would take Drake May over him. But in terms of the first-round picks in this draft, Michael Penix is the third lock first-round pick for me. I would draft Michael Penix feeling comfortable that he can come into the NFL and win games.
Yeah, I can feel that. I'm with you on that. All right, let's get to Jeff is in Texas. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Hey, I enjoy the show and the Unfiltered show and also, Alex, your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my thoughts on Belichick is, whenever that maybe Kraft has already had some small conversation, but I doubt they've had like a really, end-all conversation yet. But probably, towards the end of the year or at the end of the year, when he has that conversation, when he sits down with Belichick, whenever that happens again, obviously there's variables. We don't know how the season's going to play out. But, I mean, Belichick, the general manager, that's got to go. I mean, if he wants to stay and continue to coach, and then here's kind of my question. Kind of know that Kraft does like Mac Jones, and so what if he says, okay, to Belichick, hey, your general manager, we're taking that away. We're going a different route, the personnel decisions. But, you can stay as the head coach. We're going to keep Mac Jones. We want you to try to work with him one more time. We also, and we have a high draft pick. We're bringing in a new quarterback. How do you think that would play out? Because, Belichick apparently, from everything we know, is not a big Mac fan.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jeff. And I hear everything that he's saying. I have two reservations about that setup of giving, let's just say for argument's sake, they give the personnel to Matt Groh. And they say, Matt Groh is making the final decisions on the 53-man roster. The free agency, it's all, Matt Groh is the final say now on personnel. And you're just going to coach. The first concern that I have about that is that I don't know if Bill can work with that. I don't know if that's going to be possible.
Bill might just walk away at that point.
Yeah. And secondly, my biggest concern is Bill still a good coach? I'm more concerned than the dynamic of Matt Groh and Bill or whoever the guy is. When you're Jeff Robinson,
right?
It's Jeff Robinson, right? I think
the guy from the Titans.
Yeah. Whoever it is.
John Robinson.
I knew it was wrong. John Robinson, whoever the GM is that they hire. I'm less concerned about the dynamic because it's also kind of just to me at least, it's you're both adults, grow up and this is what we're doing, right? I don't have any time for the whining of I don't want to work with this guy. We're adults, we all work with people we don't like. That's the bottom line. Me, I work with Perillo all the time. I'm just kidding.
I was waiting for you to throw me under the bus.
I'm just kidding. But we all work with people we don't like in life, right? So figure it out.
Love everybody.
What I'm more concerned about is Bill still a good enough coach to warrant that?
No, it's a fair question. I'll just to the last point he said, because I've heard some people suggest this, why don't they keep trying to work with Mac and take a quarterback high and that way they're covered either way. Maybe if you do that in the second or third round, a guy like KJ Jefferson, something like that, you cannot take a quarterback in the first round and not have him be the guy.
Yeah.
The second you take a quarterback in the first round, Mac Jones becomes a lame duck.
I agree.
That's just, you can't blow that pick. You're essentially talking about what the Niners did.
Yeah, and it's different to me
with Trey Lance, which was obviously a disaster.
And it's different to me than I've heard the Alex Smith comp.
No, it's not the same.
Because Alex Smith was 15 years into his NFL
Alex
career.
Smith was gone.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes was drafted to replace Alex Smith. If you take a quarterback in the first round, you are not drafting him to compete with Mac Jones. You are drafting him to replace Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Second round, you want to do that Jalen Hurts thing,
right.
Like they did with Carson Wentz that worked out. Yeah, okay, maybe. I think some of that depends on who you take.
Yeah.
But you can't take a quarterback in the first round to hedge your bets.
So last thing on that call, because it's a good call.
Yeah.
When it comes to Mac and Bill, and Dove, don't come for me for this. This is not a report, okay? This is my feeling about it.
I'm going to let Dove know you're about to talk.
This is my feeling about it. I do not think that Mac Jones and Bill Belichick will both be here in 2024. I don't think they'll both be here in 2024. I think that relationship was almost severed at last year.
I mean, there were reports they tried to trade him.
Yeah, I think in the 2023 offseason, there was a real chance that this was already going to be a divorce between the quarterback and the head coach, and I think we're trending in that direction again. If I was Robert Kraft, I would pick neither, right? I would not pick Mac Jones over Bill Belichick, right? I would not do that. Probably wouldn't pick Bill over Mac either, but I'd probably be more inclined to do that. I think Bill, for all of his faults, at least Bill has a resume of winning in the league, right? So I would still side with him a little bit on that. But in general, I think that regardless, there's going to be a change in terms of that relationship. I don't think they will both be here in 2024.
But I'm also at the point, like you said, you're adults. You work together.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
I'm sort of there as well, but I actually think that
long term, I don't know if that's sustainable. But for this year,
when I say that I don't think that Mac will be here in 2024, Bill is here. I don't think that that's just because of Bill. I think that Mac is also fed up with the situation.
And then on top of that, there's logistical reasons that his rookie contract's almost up. Do they want to get something for him before he walks? The clock's run out.
Yeah.
Clock's run out.
Yep. All right. William is in Philly. What's up, William?
Hey, Evan. How you doing?
Good.
All right. I have two takes. Well, first of all, it's very hard to get in contact with y'all, basically. I don't know what's going on with the phones or whatnot, but I'm just glad I just got through. So I just got 2 takes, and I'm out your way. To you, Alex, I just want to say, you came up with the greatest idea, man. Like, when you came up with the idea about Caleb Williams, if the Patriots had the first-round pick and the Chicago Bears would, come knocking, basically, and the only way you would give up that first pick, because they want Caleb Williams, if they give you the first 2 picks that they have, where you can get Drake May and Marvin Harrison Jr., I was with you all the way.
Thanks. I don't know how realistic that is, but it's a thought.
Right, but I just want to say genius on that part.
Thank you.
And my last take is this: you two gentlemen, I had said this before, Evan, went on Undisputed, but you wasn't there. If Mr. Kraft needed 2 GMs, I can't think of 2 other people than Alex Barth and Evan Lazar. Okay, I think y'all do an outstanding job. I've been just following y'all for a minute since the YouTube thing. I mean, y'all do such an excellent job, and I just hope Mr. Kraft can see that about y'all. Take care, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks
I'll
for
let
calling.
Evan run it. I'll be like Ernie Adams behind the curtain. You don't have to tell anybody what I'll do. Like, one day I'll be working on the draft. The next day I'll pick which days we're going to wear the throwbacks, things like that. Like, you can do all the day-to-day.
Thanks. I just won't have a life, and I'll just live here. That's what you're telling me, right?
I never said I wouldn't.
So
I'm just going to work on the stuff that annoys you.
That I would need somebody
exactly.
in that role.
Yeah, there we
100%.
go.
No. I think the biggest thing in terms of this team, though, directionally, I think why people relate to how we feel about the team, Alex, in terms of the personnel, is they have to modernize this thing. Like, they have to have more of an offensive-minded philosophy. It doesn't have to be all offense, right? But
right.
It just, you can't get by in today's NFL putting together an offensive roster with cast-offs from other teams, dollar store free agent signings, guys that, you're basically paying for past performance more than you're paying for future performance. You can't get by with that kind of stuff in the veteran market, especially, but also in the draft. You can't just hope. And we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, about Gronk and Edelman.
Yeah.
And like how they kind of lucked into that working out as well as it did.
A little bit. Yeah.
And like, you can't keep counting on DeMario Douglases of the world and the Kayshon Booties of the world and Jacoby Myers is an undrafted rookie. Like, those guys have a place on your team, and they have a place on this team that is not a bad place to be, but they can't be your number one options, and you can't count on it. You know what I mean? Like, you
right.
can't count that DeMario Douglas is going to develop into a Pro Bowl receiver. You have to be more aggressive with the way that you approach team building on offense.
And just with the offense, that doesn't even mean be the Miami Dolphins and go out and get all the fastest players. Like, they haven't addressed the tackle position in years.
Yeah.
That's not a speed thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's asset management.
Yep. All right. Last call here from Sal in Connecticut. What's up, Sal?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey.
Good.
Listen, first I enjoy your show quite a bit.
Thank you.
Just another point of view. I've been a season ticket holder for some 33 years or so. So I've seen a lot of garbage, and I've been a fan since '72. I'm 62 years old. Why do I think that if this offensive line for the Patriots was the Eagles' offensive line or another solid offensive line, that we would have a completely different take on how Mac looks or how he developed? I don't know whether or not it's based, if the failure of the line is based on Clem or it's based on Bill's selecting of players. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. And one other point, if Bill is going to stay and Bob's going to keep him, Bob Kraft's going to keep him, I would suggest that I would like to see some announcement that he's staying now, so that any players that think they want to check out might realize that they're going to be dealing with the same coach next year and that he's not a lame duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point. And that's...
Thanks for the call, Sal. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's something that could happen behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's not like a public statement.
Yeah.
You're not going to publicly put your support behind the coach, because even if you say that and the players buy in again and all that kind of stuff, if you finish the year 3 and 14, you still have to keep your options open.
And you know what? Let the players who would quit.
Yeah.
And then you know what guys are made of.
Yeah. To his other points, do I think that we talked about this a little bit, Alex, because I know it's been a little bit of a popular topic the last couple days for whatever reason. Mac versus Tua, right? And is Tua a product of his environment, and would Mac look better like in Miami's offense? And so my answer to all that is, yeah, of course he would look better in Miami's offense than he looks here. Miami has its own offensive line issues, by the way, but he would look better in Miami, no doubt about it. And he would look better if they had a better offensive line here or better weapons, one or the other. You have to have good weapons.
Or both.
Great offense to have both for the most.
Yeah.
Well, Miami doesn't, so I didn't even say that. I think that you absolutely.
Well, it's straight. They scheme around it.
So you absolutely, in terms of personnel, though, take the quarterback out of it for a second.
Yeah.
I think you absolutely need to have good weapons or good offensive line play.
Yes.
If you have one of those things, then you're going to be a good offense. To be a great offense, you need multiple, right? And Miami right now has great scheme, great receivers, great quarterback, right? So that's why they're the number one offense in the NFL. But in terms of Mac, would it have looked better? Yes. Will it look better? Could it look better? Yes. I think the bottom line is, though, that it's too late. It's
too late. Yep.
It's too late to have that conversation.
That's what this year was.
Right.
We spent all offseason talking about this is the make or break year for Mac Jones.
Yeah.
You got to put around him what you think the group around him is going to look like so you can evaluate him. If this is the kind of group they plan on putting around him for the future, he's not the guy. Right. I don't know that there is a guy if this is the kind of group they plan to have for the future, but he does need some talent around him. He's not Tom Brady. That has been established. That is your hot take, Evan. I don't mean to steal that for you. He's not Patrick Mahomes, another classic Evan take.
Yep. He's not the best quarterback in the league.
Correct.
I agree.
It's a bold take from you.
Okay, but
this is it. No. I know what you're trying to say, but this is if this is the group you want to put around Mac Jones, which this was the year to kind of put it all together. If this is the group you're putting around him, then you need to find a new guy because he's not it for this group.
Yeah, and I also just think it's challenging to now at this point, assuming that this continues to go down this season the way it's gone down. 2 years of this, of him looking broken, and then putting him back together in year 4.
And not just that. It's not just putting him back together. You have to commit to him long term starting this offseason. You have the 5th-year option, and then you actually have to give him a contract.
Yeah.
So, look, if it was year 1 and this was going on, you could say, give it another shot. And that's what we did, as we did last year.
Yeah.
The window's closed. The window's closed on the rookie contract. They're back to square one.
Okay, so before we wrap here, and I know we were supposed to wrap already, but that's not how we roll.
How we do it.
That's not how we roll.
Time does not exist on this show.
We got to.
We have some old school Andy Reid clock management on this show.
It's so true. I try so hard to keep us on schedule, and it never works.
We're going to do segments. We're going to do planned segments, and the show's going to have a lot more flow. It's never going to happen.
No. Let's talk a little bit of Buffalo. I think it's first of all, I just want to say that for me, as somebody that loves to talk about matchups and X's and O's and things like that, the fact that we're an hour and 42 minutes into the show and we haven't even talked about who they're playing on Sunday yet is depressing. It's depressing that we can't even that's
especially because you got a little man crush on Josh Allen.
We're going to talk about it. That doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't even matter. But with that being said, let's do some key matchups. Let's discuss this matchup. I think the one thing, if you're a Patriots fan and you are asking me, Evan, Alex, why watch this game on Sunday? Why bother? Why watch this game?
Oh, I'm going to hate this answer. I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
Because you get to watch Josh Allen.
No, I'm not going to say that.
I would have left.
I might have said that just to get under your skin. The one thing that I will say is, as talented as the Bills are, and they're much better than you on paper. It's not close.
Yes.
As talented as they are, the Bills have not really played great football lately. They almost lost to the Giants on Sunday night.
Should have lost to the Giants.
They lost in London to Jacksonville, who's been up and down themselves. And
they lost to Zach Wilson.
They lost to Zach Wilson in week 1. So they haven't been playing great football. I was on a podcast with the Cover One folks who do a great job covering the Bills. I was on a podcast with them last night, and we were talking off the top about handling expectations. When your team is expected to win the Super Bowl and the favorite to win, they were the betting favorite coming into the season, I think, Buffalo, to win the Super Bowl.
But okay.
That's the bar is Super Bowl. how do you handle some of the adversity?
Oh, the Bills fans have no idea how to root for a winning team.
Right. So I was trying to help them through it.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing so in Buffalo right now, they want to fire Ken Dorsey. They're out on the offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator that has the team third in the league in points per game.
Yeah.
Right? They're out because...
It's us with Josh McDaniels all those years ago.
Because they have some peaks and valleys. They do.
Yeah.
They're a boomer bust offense, which is your whole thing against Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
They're either scoring 40 or they're scoring 14. And there's like no in between with this offense right now. And if you're a Patriots fan, it has not happened against the Patriots in 4 years. So I'm not trying to tell you it's going to happen on Sunday. But if you want to have a sliver of hope that the Patriots can actually be in this game, it's that if you can catch Buffalo on one of those 14-point games, then they have been vulnerable this season a little bit.
But it's not going to happen because McDermott and Allen just have something about Belichick that they play these games differently. Look, I hate it. Celtics fans do this a lot.
Yeah.
Where some player will go off against the Celtics and they'll be like, oh, of course he has a career game against the Celtics. When like the Celtics defense was just bad.
Yeah.
Or like, why do all these guys have career games against Celtics? Oh, the defense bad. Josh Allen plays differently against the Patriots than he plays against everybody else. The book on Josh Allen, all these teams do it, is you sit back, you take away the big play, you take away Stephon Diggs, and you force him to check the ball down throughout the game. Because eventually he will get frustrated and he will start being reckless and turning the ball over.
Yeah.
This is not a hot take. This is backed up by facts. He has 60 turnovers in 55 games since 2020. No other quarterback is within 5 of him.
Guess how many of those 60 turnovers are against the Patriots?
3. It's 3. For whatever reason.
In 8 games.
For whatever reason,
tears them up.
When he faces the Patriots, he can go the whole game and just doot down the field, and he does not feel the need, unless it's wide open, right?
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs against J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
Unless it's wide open, he does not take the bait again. I don't know if it's because Bill dominated him so much early in his career. Sean McDermott, again, has this weird thing about Bill. Remember after the win game, he was like, don't give Bill Belichick too much credit. Whatever that thing is, I'd love to know.
Yeah.
They go into this game, and they're like, they play the way, if the Bills played the way against the Patriots, they play against all the other teams, they would win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they clearly have it within themselves to do it, and they just decide not to do it. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. So
But this is what they do.
Some of the things that I think have come up with the Bills offense. One is obviously Allen has 6 picks and is prone to turn the ball over a little bit. The other thing is that Ken Dorsey's come out of under a lot of fire, is that they have the under center more traditional offense in their back pocket, but they don't go to it very often. And like, I feel like they're very Allen and Diggs hero ball centric,
which is not sustainable,
right? So
except against the Patriots.
That's why they are inconsistent,
right?
Is because their offense, when it comes down to it, is so reliant on Josh Allen just effing around out there and figuring out something and finding Stephon Diggs like 8 seconds into the play and making something crazy happen, that eventually there's turnovers, there's inconsistencies, there's issues.
He gets hurt. He's got the bad shoulder now. He hurt his shoulder last week.
So there's just a lot of stuff that they're trying to find the key word of consistency. Like, they're trying to find a way to be consistent.
Are they or do they just not care and like what it is?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, because on the one hand,
I don't think they have any interest in being consistent.
So they can't you can't fully reel in Josh Allen, because then you take away his superpower, right?
Well, they've tried to do that, and they did that at the end of last year, and they were bad.
Yeah, you can't do it, because that's how he plays. Like,
but when he plays that way, he gets hurt.
Yeah, I hear you, but his superpower is, I call him Captain Chaos. Like, his superpower is that he, on extended broken down plays, is the best quarterback I think I've ever seen at extending the play. You can't get him down. Like, you can't get the guy on the ground. He just runs around. He stiff arms guys. He throws guys off of him. He jukes guys, and then he's going to make this, off 1 foot, off platform, throw into a tight window, and somehow it works. Like, it's like that touchdown pass he threw.
Well, except all the times it doesn't, but we're not allowed to talk about those.
Well, we don't talk about them because they don't happen against the Patriots. Like, somehow he figures out how to do it against the Patriots all the time. So what do you do against a guy like that just thrives in chaos? The one thing that I've seen, I watched a lot of the Jets, because the Jets seem to have his number. The Jets have figured it out. So the Jets, what they do is they disguise the crap out of the back end. They never tell him they're in pre-snap. And they basically, the way I look at it, is they fight chaos with chaos. Like, you want to play chaotic and be all over the place, then we're going to do the same exact thing. We're not going to sit in the same defense. We're not going to show you the picture pre-snap, and we're going to basically, like, they almost played like a back end amoeba where guys were just like popping around all the time, right? We see that with the front, right? Where guys are just all hovering around the line of scrimmage and don't know who is coming and who's dropping. The Jets do that, but with their secondary. And it's not the corners. Like, I'm talking about like the safeties and like they're just all over the place. Who's
spying, who's in zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get a good read of it, and they bait him into mistakes. And he sometimes will walk into the trap. And he did week one, three interceptions in week one. So I think that you have to do that. You have to get pressure and just live with it. Like, you have to be able to thrive in chaos just like he does. And I think with the Patriots, one of it is partially been a talent issue. Yeah. I think over the last couple of years that they don't have the talented guys to be down for 4 or 5 seconds at a time against a player like Josh Allen. But I would also say that some of it is that their system is so predicated on like discipline and rules and integrity and like structure. And he breaks that. Like, he breaks the wheel.
Well, you go back to the play last year. They forced him to the sideline. That's the rule, but you got to play to the whistle.
Yeah.
Couple other things I would say on Josh Allen. Again, play to the whistle. Yeah. And not just tackling him. Catch the ball when he throws it to you. Yeah. The J.C. Jackson one in 21 and Kyle Duggar in 22. They had 2 nearly game-changing interceptions they dropped. And it almost works at times the way they spin the dial on him. Yeah. The other one, and this goes counter to everything we've said, but I'm going to bring it up. And I want to actually pull this up here. I know we're up against it, but here's the time when I give you some numbers, Evan. Outside of the playoff game, which was just a blowout. Yeah. All the games since 2020 have had a very similar theme. Yeah. And that is the Bills have a slight lead at halftime. They go into the third quarter, and at some point in the second half, they have some monstrous drive that and that's why a lot of these games have been like closer on the scoreboard than they seem. Yeah. 2020, week 8, the Bills had a 9 and 10 play drive in the second half. First one gave them a 1-touchdown lead, and then the second one made it a 2-score game. So that kind of blew it up. 2020, they had a 10-play drive the second game, 10-play drive that took 8 minutes off the clock. That basically iced the game, took a 2-score game to a 3-score game. They had 2 in the first game in 2016. 2 5-minute drives, 14 plays and 13 drives. A 15-play drive in the first game last year and a 7-play drive in the second game. The best way to prevent them from doing that is to start strong and not give them a lead. But that is, we talked about that.
Not going to happen.
I preach patience with Josh Allen all the time. I say that's what you have to do. Just don't give him the big play, force him to check his way down the field. If you get to the second half and it's like a 1-score game, maybe a 10-point game. Yeah. Throw that out and get aggressive and go after him, because they will take that 8-minute drive and they will run the thing down, and suddenly a 10-point game with like 5 minutes to go in the third quarter becomes a 17-point game with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and it's completely different.
Right. So I actually, this is one of those games, and I want to move over to the offense quickly because we're running out of time. This is one of those games that I actually agree with something that you talk about a lot, and that is you got to shorten the game.
Shorten the game. Run the ball.
Yeah, you got to. So the Giants held them to 9 drives. The Bills had 9 drives against the Giants. They only averaged 3.9 a carry, but they committed to the run game. Barkley had a few big runs in the second half on one drive, one of their scoring drives. He got them down the field. He had a 34-yarder, 19-yarder, right? And that they were able to run the ball. The one thing about this Bills team right now, we talked about the volatility of the offense. There's a world where the Patriots get boat raced by the talent with Buffalo, like Dallas, like a Dallas type game, right? Where they just are so much more talented than you get boat raced. But the one thing that you can do against the Bills, and I say that because if you're that far behind, then the running game really is not going to matter. But they do no longer have the Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds combination at linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds left for the Bears in free agency, and Matt Milano is out for the year. He's injured. So their new tandem is Terrell Bernard, who I remember from Baylor, is a third-round draft pick, and they've been cycling through a couple different guys at that second linebacker spot. But essentially what I'm saying in a long way is that Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds are not walking through the door for Buffalo's defense right now. So you can run on this Buffalo defense. Their pass rush is fifth in the league in pressure rate. They're first in the league in sacks. They have a legitimate pass rush. And what worries me about this game in terms of it getting out of hand for the Patriots is that it's going to look a lot like Dallas and New Orleans, where the pressure is just relentless and Mac Jones turns the ball over a bunch, right? Like, that's what I am concerned about, and in terms of getting the score getting out of hand. But you can run at this Bills defense. And those linebackers are smaller. They're inexperienced. Bernard's had like a decent season for a second-year guy, but he's not Matt Milano. And that they have some injuries on that side of the ball.
Ed Oliver also might not play.
Yeah, Daquan Jones is out. Trey White is out. And those two linebackers are no longer there. So you can run on this defense a little. You can control the game in that sense a little bit. And maybe you can, get them to back off a little bit on the outside and throw some of the quick game stuff if you can run the ball. I think that there's a formula that exists for the Patriots to be competitive in this game. The two things that I worry the most about are obviously Diggs and Allen, which everybody worries about. And
has J.C. Jackson picked up anything that it will be different against Stephon Diggs this time?
And the other thing I worry about is Buffalo's pass rush just eating that offensive line alive.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then you might be looking at a blowout.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at with the Bills. So I'm sorry, kind of, that we only spent 15 minutes or so on the Bills. I know that that's not our usual MO, but we had to talk about the other things, bigger picture here, right? A little bit.
Lincoln Riley.
And apparently Lincoln Riley. So we'll be back next week, same time, same place, breaking down a trip to Miami, which doesn't feel so hot. Miami. I don't think that that's a great spot for the Patriots, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we're not talking about a 1-6 and 1-7 football team here in a couple weeks. But until then, signing off for Alex Barth, I'm Evan Lazar. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.